to be understood in terms of a solution to a practical problem. And he said because we are self-interested human beings and we all want to live well, he felt that none of us could really do that unless we lived in a peaceful, cooperative social order. So he lays out for us how that needs to happen. What needs to happen in terms of having this peaceful, cooperative social order, and what do we need to do to participate in that? So the moral rules then for Hobbes are the rules that we need in order to get the benefits of social living, because we all want to live in that peaceful, cooperative social order. He even asked the question about what it would be like if there were no social rules at all. He thought it would be horrible. He thought it would be chaotic. He thought it would be dreadful. In fact, he refers to it as a state of nature, and that no one would live a good life if they lived in a state of nature. Why? Why would things be so bad if there were no rules? And he lays that out for us in our textbook. He said there's 4 basic facts of the human condition that make it possible for us to live in a chaotic world if we did not have rules. And those things are, 1, equality of need, meaning each of us needs the same basic things in order to survive. We need food, we need water, we need shelter, we need security. All of those things are the same for everyone. But 2, there's a scarcity of resources. So the things that we all need do not exist in plenty for all of us. In fact, we have to work very hard to produce many of these things, and we still may not have enough for everybody that needs them. 3, he refers to this as the essential equality of human power. Yes, we will be able to prevail over other people to get the scarce resources that we need, but he said we're not going to be able to do that all the time. Right? There are always going to be someone who's smarter, who's stronger, who is maybe even sneakier or more sly to be able to get the resources. We might not be able to prevail. We might not be able to get everything that we need all the time. And even if we work together with others, we still may not be able to. And 4th, he said that there is limited altruism, that idea of thinking of others first, putting others' needs in front of us. That's limited, he felt, that we can't rely on other people to always step aside and give us what we need. Even if they're not completely selfish human beings, we can't assume that whenever our interests coincide with theirs or even conflict with theirs, they're going to step aside and give us the resources that we need. So because of all of these things, we all need the same things. There's scarcity of those things. There is the ability to not always win out over others, and the fact that we can't always rely on other people to be altruistic. That will result in a state of war. The state of nature that he refers to, things would be very chaotic. So his solution, in order to escape the state of nature, we have to find a way to cooperate. The way to the best and most worthwhile life is to live in a peaceful and cooperative society. So he offers us a way to cooperate. He says that in a stable and cooperative society, the amount of essential goods can actually be increased and distributed to all who need them. But in order for that to happen, we have to be guaranteed of a couple of things. First, we have to be guaranteed that people are not going to harm us. Right? That we're going to be able to go to work, we're going to be able to live without the fear of being attacked or someone stealing from us, or even worse. We have to be able to be guaranteed, that reasonably guaranteed, that we can leave our houses in order to go to work and do what we need to do. If we don't have that reasonable guarantee, we'd be battening down the hatches, and our home would be our fortress that we needed to defend against others. So we need that guarantee that people are not going to harm one another. But we also need the guarantee that people are going to be able to rely on others to keep their agreements. Right? That people are going to be able to count on other people to perform their expected duties so that you can cooperate. If you have someone who's growing the food or someone who's building the houses, you have to be able to rely on the fact that they are going to do what they say they are going to do. If you have the butcher and the baker and the candlestick maker, you have to be sure and reasonably certain that the butcher is going to take care of your meat needs, the baker is going to take care of your pastry needs, and the candlestick maker is going to take care of your candle needs, so that you can cooperate and share resources. And once that happens, once you are guaranteed those two things, everyone is going to be better off than if they were in the state of nature where there were no guarantees. So, in order for this to happen, in order for you to be reasonably sure that you're going to have those guarantees, he offers a solution, and that solution is government. And he said government is that really important part of the plan. The laws, the rules, the police, the courts are needed to be able to ensure those two guarantees, right? Because we can't live in a cooperative, peaceful society unless we can be guaranteed that people are going to hold up their end of the bargain and we're not going to be harmed. In order for that to happen, it's government that ensures that those guarantees are there. So to escape the state of nature, people have to agree to the rules that govern their relationships with one another and to the establishment of this agency or this institution, the state, with the power to enforce those rules. Hobbes calls this the social contract, right? So it's not a written piece of paper that you sign, right? It's not a tangible thing, but it's the idea that the state or the institution or the government exists to enforce the rules that are necessary for social living. So morality consists in that whole set of rules that facilitate social living. And it's only under the social contract, it's only under our agreement to live by those rules that we can even become beneficent human beings, that we can even start to think of other people's needs. Because it is the contract, it is our agreement that gives us the conditions that afford us the opportunity to even care about other people. Altruism becomes possible under this social contract. So, to sum up, we're talking about the idea of individuals in a society agreeing to live by social rules that will be governed by the state to enforce those guarantees that we need to be able to live in a cooperative, peaceful society. And once we can do that, once we can live in the peaceful, cooperative society, we're living the good life. We're living the best possible life. We're living a moral life. One of the examples in your textbook is about the prisoner's dilemma. And this was a dilemma that was put forth by Meryl Flood and Melvin Drescher. And it really sort of outlines the idea of why it might be better to work together, to cooperate. That in the end, if you cooperate, you are going to be able to have a much better circumstance. And so this is the example that he gives. And it's a very famous example of the prisoner's dilemma. It's the idea that you've been charged with treason and you've been working with a man named Smith. Now, Smith has been arrested and is in a separate cell from you. The interrogator demands that you confess to this crime. You protest your innocence. In fact, you don't even know this crime. You don't even know Smith. But it does no one good because the interrogator wants to be able to convict someone. So the interrogators offer you a deal. And here's your deal. 1, if Smith does not confess, but you do confess, and you testify against Smith, they'll release you, you'll go free, but Smith, who didn't cooperate, is going to be put away for 10 years. 2, if Smith confesses and you do not, the situation is reversed. He's going to go free, and you're going to get 10 years. If you both confess, this is number 3, you're each going to be sentenced to 5 years. But if neither of you confesses, number 4, there's not going to be enough evidence to convict either one of you. Basically, they have to let you both go. So, you're told that Smith is being offered this same deal, but you have no way to communicate with Smith and you have no idea what he's going to do. So, assuming that you want to spend as little time in jail as possible, what do? And the solution to that is you have to reason through the scenario and to decide what it is that you should do. In the best of all circumstances here, the best thing for you to do is to confess. Do you know why you would confess? Because remember, Smith is thinking the exact same way that you are. So he's thinking that if he confesses, or if you confess, let's take it from your standpoint, if you confess and you testify against Smith, even if Smith does not confess, Smith's going to be put away because he didn't cooperate, and you're going to go free. So that's good news. However, if you confess and Smith confesses, then you're at option number 3, and you'll each be sentenced to 5 years. Right? If you don't confess, but let's say Smith does, you're going to get the worst, right? You're going to get 10 years. So if you try to mitigate the damages here, your best possible thing, because you don't know what Smith is going to do, is to confess. Because you're not going to get the max of 10 years. The most you would get would be 5 years, right? So it's sort of to choose the lesser of all evils. Now, of course, in the best possible scenario, let's say that you could communicate with Smith. And if you could make a deal with Smith, and you could say, hey, look, don't say anything, don't confess. I won't confess. Neither one of us will confess. And there's not going to be enough evidence to convict either one of us, and so we'll both go free. And that's great. But remember, you can't communicate with Smith. So you don't want to find yourself in a situation where Smith confesses and you don't, because you don't want to risk being in jail for 10 years. So you have to take the lesser of two evils. If you could cooperate with Smith, and that's the key here. Remember, the key is to live in a cooperative, peaceful society. If you could cooperate with Smith and make that deal, that would be the best thing that you can do, right? However, it still doesn't guarantee that Smith doesn't rat on you, right? Say, okay, we're not going to confess, and then go back and confess, because then you're in the situation where he confesses and you don't. So you need some kind of guarantee that Smith is going to keep up his end of the deal, that he's not going to renege on the deal, right? Very similar to the social contract, right? We agree to the rules of society because we get those guarantees. But we also know that the state or the institution or the government is going to be there to make sure that those rules are followed. If we had some way of making sure that Smith was going to follow his agreement, have that guarantee, we could go ahead and make the agreement with Smith, right? But you can't risk the fact that he might not follow through. So you need the state, you need the government to be able to ensure that you have those guarantees. Because if you can do that, then you can make deals, like deals that you might make with Smith. Of course, in the prisoner's dilemma, you can't make the deal with Smith because you can't talk to him, you can't cooperate with him. So in that situation, your best option is to confess, because you're going to get the least of the worst. But in a society where you could cooperate, in a situation with Smith where you could cooperate and you could make a deal, and knowing that that deal would be enforced somehow, that's your absolute best possibility. So Thomas Hobbes says the way to a peaceful, cooperative life, the way to a good life, is to be able to have those guarantees. And how do you have those guarantees? You have some kind of state, institution, or government that enforces those guarantees. The way to the best and most worthwhile life, then, is to agreeing to the social contract. Okay, I hope that was a good lesson, and I look forward to the next one.